Teachers, guests, faculty, and staff, and of course, my classmates, both old and new, it's my great joy and honor to welcome you to IMSA for the 2023-24 school year. Since 1986, this great edifice of knowledge, crafted by Dr. Leon Letterman, Dr. Stephanie Pace Marshall, and others, has greatly impacted the lives of Illinois students and educators. And this year, we get the unique opportunity to welcome a few of you from out of state to the land of Lincoln. Hope you like corn. But what's existed for even longer than IMSA itself is the literal edifice we're standing in right now, the main building. Built in the 1950s, it was used as a North Campus for West Aurora High School before eventually being sold to a few physicists, politicians, and educators with a plan and a vision. Regardless of its original purpose or what it's evolved into, I've long thought of IMSA as the ideal place to be during a zombie apocalypse. And no, it's not just because the building looks like a bunker and has plenty of nooks and crannies to hide. Think about it. We have our robotics teams who could construct machines to fight the zombies off. We have our drug discovery SIR and medchem students to engineer some molecular leads for a vaccine or an antidote, and plethora of textbooks and reading materials to hide behind. Okay, I've admittedly thought about this quite a bit. Additionally, we IMSA students are some of the most competitive yet collaborative people you'll ever meet. Anyone who's even set foot on campus during clash season or remembers the diamond heist from last year can attest to this. So, when I walked in as a bright-eyed sophomore to this arsenal of the state's best and brightest, I stood fearless, excited to hone my skills amongst some of the best the state had to offer, just expecting to stay the same person I'd been my whole life, if not a bit smarter for my efforts. And then the apocalypse came, not in nuclear fallout or the sun exploding or in zombies, but in the form of severe clinical depression. Sophomore year is a blur in my mind, of lonely hours spent staring blankly at my laptop, willing my fingers to just write anything. The extracurriculars and clubs I'd once treasured, filling me with a sense of dread and pervasive tiredness that soured even the most dulcet of moments. I descended deeper and deeper into this exhaustion to the point I was practically paralyzed in bed, utterly alone in this community I was told was vibrant, was a safe haven, a Hogwarts for nerds. I'm grateful to my family and IMSA friends who helped me come to the gut-wrenching realization I desperately needed help. But it's once this storm was over that things began to get interesting. And that's why it fascinates me, our world's grotesque obsession with the apocalypse, be it the Barbenheimer phenomenon of the summer, doomsday scrolling, or the scores of apocalyptic books, songs, and TV shows. Everyone loves to romanticize the destruction aesthetic from the safety of their dorm room or their living room couch, but no one seems to like or even remember the apocalypse's original meaning. The word comes from a compound of the ancient Greek apo and kalypso, meaning to uncover unsustainable systems, to uncover painful truths, but also to uncover skills we never knew we possessed. And so as I worked through my treatment and therapy, naively expecting myself to return to the laser-focused person I'd always been, I quickly realized that that wasn't gonna happen. My brain had been permanently biochemically altered, my precious little world of neural networks tied in an irreparable knot. And in the aftermath of this disaster, I had to devise an entirely new system of motivation outside of fear, of deadlines, and of pressure, of anxiety. Because as simplistic and familiar and comfortable as it was for me, it no longer worked. So, my advice to you all this year, as you prepare for the apocalypse, is that you need to figure out what motivates you. And no, to all of your rapid dopamine release loving brains, the academic validation that we all hold so dear does not count. If you haven't figured it out by now, IMSA isn't your average high school. We have more classes in niche fields, research and advocacy opportunities, even inquiry-based learning of the consequences of living off of solely Monster Energy for a few months, and so much more. Limiting yourself to these primitive reward systems like academic validation is selling yourself short for all the things your brain has to offer and all the revelations you might encounter at this place. And your driving force doesn't need to be one specific thing, or worse yet, what you think other people want you to do. It can be something obvious like computer science or journalism, or the favorite of many an IMSA student and faculty member, physics. But it can also be a value in all that you do. It can be the beauty of learning, or of solving puzzles, or of storytelling. Bonus points if it keeps you sane. I, for one, love seeing how many of my classmates have found solace in runs around Access Road, hitting PRs in the fitness center, or dancing their heart out in culture shows, even though it won't directly affect their future careers or college admissions. Of course, it's not going to be quite as easy as just finding what you love and doing it. There are going to be rejections, people who never will live up to your fantasy of them, and classes that just aren't fun. The bane of my meager IMSA experience for the past year and a half has been the BC Calculus series. I remember last semester, after a series of particularly challenging tests, I just broke down crying, disheartened and frustrated, and unfortunately, right in the middle of the math office. I'd fallen victim to the grind, as so many of us IMSA students do, literally petrified in our little bunkers of study for fear of the apocalypse, far removed from our friends and viewing our classes, clubs, and even SIRs as a series of boxes to check. And don't get me wrong, a motivated grind is a valuable tool until we cease to realize that we have this arsenal of resources around us, be it our teachers, our RCs, our classmates. So, this year, when it feels like the walls are crumbling down around you, you must find the people who remind you that just as noble as getting 7 A's is making 7 people feel that their life is worth living. So, to the class of 2026, our new sophomores, welcome home. I like to think that the commencement of your time here marks a benevolent apocalypse of sorts, as your mind is opened up to new people, ways of thinking, and bizarre math symbols that before in your lives only existed in sororities and fraternities. As your capabilities begin to reveal themselves, I implore you to lean on your teachers, upperclassmen, and friends for support and guidance. It's always you sophomores who surprise us most. To the class of 2025, welcome back. Now that you have your wits about you, this is your year to take risks, to learn more about yourself, and identify the people, places, and things that get you out of bed in the morning. This year will inevitably bring some more work, and potentially even identity crises. But if you are able to lean into the change and embrace that grind with a purpose, you'll be amazed at the person you become. And finally, to my class, the class of 2024, welcome back to your final year at IMSA. With the premise of freedom on the horizon, our lives in lower education are about to end, opening doors both terrifying and tantalizing. Rather than worrying or excessively fantasizing, I don't judge you there, about the inevitable apocalypse that is graduation, I encourage you this final year to remain grounded in your passions, present with the people around you, and to keep in mind this underlying responsibility of continuing the culture of this place. And finally, I'd like to leave you with this. Each day of our lives is filled with apocalypses. Some could be tiny, like studying more than you think is humanly possible for an AdChem exam and still failing. Others a bit bigger, like a rift in a friend group, and yet others even more momentous, like illness or the death of a family member. Each of these events force us to look at the shrapnel around us, reach out for support, and reconsider the way we live. But perhaps the key to surviving the apocalypse is to not really think of it as such, but to remember that change, discovery, and even some mild discomfort here at IMSA is all part of your plot. Thank you. Now,